Hello, guys. Welcome to Commando Cast. This is Jeremy.
And I'm Andrew, and today Jeremy's going to walk us through his version of solo mode. All right, guys. Hey, so welcome back. So I wanted to have Jeremy on here to chat about his version of solo mode because that's pretty much what we've been doing here on the channel for the last couple weeks. So, hey, Jeremy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. This is super cool.
Yeah,
Glad
so
to
why
be
don't
on.
you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I live in Michigan. I've been playing Star Wars Destiny for quite some time now, probably like a year or two. And I think the solo mode thing is really cool. That's something I enjoy. I love being able to, I like being competitive as much as the next guy, but being able to play by yourself and do something challenging, or even I really like getting together with some friends and doing like player versus game type stuff. So when I saw that you had put something out like that, I was really interested in trying my own hand at it. I've also played Magic: The Gathering, so other TCGs. I've got lots of experience with that. So I think that's it's kind of where this stuff kind of came from.
Okay, cool. So yeah, let's jump right in. So how does your from a mechanic standpoint, how does your version differ from mine?
Well, I pretty much what I what I did was I pulled up your mall video and I paused it when you had the picture of your mall card on the screen there, so I could read what you had for how his mechanics worked, and I was like, that's pretty good. I knew I wanted to run it as 30 cards, so I was like, I'm just going to tweak it a bit. So what my card does is it reads, once Vader has played 5 cards from the boss deck, claim the battlefield or pass if it's already been claimed. Otherwise, play a card from the boss deck. When the boss deck has no more cards, shuffle the boss deck discard pile and use it to create a new boss deck. So what you've got going is he uses his actions to play a card, and then as soon as he's done with the entire deck, because you run what, like 7 or 8 cards,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and as soon as those are gone, he'll claim out and be done. So Vader will use his action to draw a card, and then my cards have activation cards. Like I got six that give him a shield and 6 that deal a damage upon activation. So it's entirely possible that you'll have a round where he doesn't actually activate. However, it's pretty unlikely because it ends up being 40% of the deck. Yep, it differs from yours because he'll run through his deck and that's when he's done. Mine, he'll finish with as soon as he's drawn 5 cards, whether or not he's activated, he's done for the round. And I also threw in the rules that because the wording on the card is after he's drawn 5, then he will claim. However, if he's got dice left in the pool, his action will always be you want to resolve the dice as your next action. So say he rolls melee and shields, he'll use his next 2 actions to resolve those dice unless they're removed. And for Thrawn, I added some support, so I also added the wording in there. If a boss has ready supports, they will also use their next action to do that as well.
I see. So let's go back and talk about Vader because that was kind of your first and original passion,
Yes.
if I believe,
Yep.
right? So,
Yeah.
what led you to the whole 5 card discard thing, right? Actually, could you just go ahead and read Vader to us, just that we're all baselined, and then kind
Sure.
of just
Yep.
walk us through.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right. So Vader reads, once Vader has played 5 cards from the boss deck, claim the battlefield or pass if it has already been claimed. Otherwise, play a card from the boss deck. When the boss deck has no more cards, shuffle the boss deck discard pile and use it to create a new boss deck. So I went to 5 cards because I knew that I wanted to do a 30-card deck, and a lot of Destiny games are done 5 turns or less. So I wanted him to run through a good amount of cards each round. But I didn't want it to be too much, and I didn't want it to be too little. I feel like 5 is it's in a pretty good spot with the testing that I've done. It feels strong, but it still feels beatable.
Okay, fair enough. So, are there any other cards you wanted to highlight while we're here for either Vader or Thrawn?
Sure, yeah. I'd like to highlight some of Vader's cards. I think the first one has to be Force Choke, and I know Destiny already has a card called Force Choke, and I tried to stay away from reusing the names of cards from cards that already exist, but you have to include a choke in Vader's deck, and I wanted it to do something different. So it reads, all players must decide together to choose one character that one of those players controls, exhaust that character, and it takes 3 damage. So it's an exhaustion mechanic, and it deals a decent amount of damage. It's really strong. That one ended up winning the game for me last night when I was playtesting. I've got the Force is my defense. This one reads, Darth Vader gains shields equal to the number of player characters +1, and that's hugely impactful as well, and it gets stronger the more players you have, playing against him. And that really lets the plot it really lets the plot shine too, because he has no shield limit.
Mm-hmm.
And the last card is Execute. So Vader can spend resources to deal damage this turn, and will spend resources equal to the remaining health of a character if able. Otherwise, spend all of Vader's resources to deal that much damage to the lowest health character. So I wanted Vader to feel like a hunter, like he hunted down the Jedi in Order 66, and afterwards he'd seek them out. So I wanted him to feel like he's just gunning for that lowest health character, and he's just taking him out and getting stronger each time he does. And Execute is a way for him to spend any extra, if he keeps rolling resources on you, that's going to make him feel kind of weak. So if you end up pulling Execute after he's rolled weakly a few times, it's a way for him to use it, and I think it's pretty strong. There's only one of those in the deck.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, did you want to highlight a few Thrawn cards, and then we'll put a bow on this and get out of here?
Yeah. And the card, I play tested that one last night too, and I think this one might be a little bit, you might need to co-op this one, because you destroyed me. Every turn my hand was gone, and I think probably the nastiest card is Several Steps Ahead. Draw and play 3 additional boss deck cards this turn /action, following all rules on each card. This card does not count towards the 5 total, but the next 3 will as normal. And that just allows him to ramp really, really quick and get several cards out, and rip cards from your hand, do a lot of impactful things in one action. And he kicked my butt, so.
Okay.
So you want me to go through the Chimera and the Defender?
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Let's do those guys. Those are your key ones.
Yeah. Okay. So some of the key Thrawn cards, I think, are the Chimera, and this one reads, it comes into play with 15 tokens on it. Remove a token each time an enemy player is forced to discard a card from hand. Remove a token for each card discarded. When no tokens remain, immediately deal 25 indirect damage to each enemy player. That's supposed to pretty much be a game ender. I'm not sure if I ever will. It's a little slow, but I think it's really thematic anyway.
Yeah, well, you'll probably get there, right? So one question I did have for the discard is who like how does it determine who's discarding? Which player's discarding?
I think at least initially it's going to be player decides. It's going to be, if you're cooperating, you're going to say, okay, I'll take it this time, or the next time the next player will take it. But I think there are some that specify the character with the lowest cards in hand. It's meant to aggressively rip from one person.
I see.
Yeah, so that's how that's supposed to work. Then Thrawn is the designer of the TIE Defender program, so I've included 4 TIE Defenders in the deck that read, exhaust the support to deal 2 indirect damage to the enemy player with the least cards in hand, or exhaust the support to deal 2 damage to an enemy vehicle. If that vehicle has damage equal to its cost, discard it. And that's meant to deal with vehicles, and it's just more indirect, more towards the theme that I've got running there. And the last card I'll highlight for that is Several Steps Ahead. Draw and play 3 additional boss deck cards this turn /action, following all rules on each card. This card does not count towards the 5 total, but the next 3 will as normal, and that's really, really strong. It's some ramp, so he can do a lot of actions that are all heavily impactful in one turn, and it allows him to go through the deck more quickly, get the defenders out. So if there's vehicles in, then he can destroy those quickly. So it's really challenging. I think that one you should probably take on with at least one friend.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So the last thing I wanted to highlight about your side of the development is that it is using all existing dice. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. For me, it was a significant barrier to have to design dice and be able to find the right kind of thing to print on with the stickers, and then line it up so that the printer works with the stickers. And I know that you put out some documents, so that makes it a lot easier for anybody that is wanting to do that, which is super cool. I'm not mechanically inclined. I don't know how to make that for myself, so I wanted to use dice that I already had, and I had Terror to Behold, so I was like, yeah, he's really cool. He's got strong dice. I'll just use those. And that's kind of what led me to that. And then I was like, I got Thrawn dice too. I'll make one of him. So.
Okay. And then you had, before we were prepping, you had kind of spoken about the resource engine, because that was one thing that I avoided entirely, was using resources, and your engine does use resources. So can you kind of walk people through that and how that works?
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So Vader specifically earns 1 resource per turn because he's got that 4-for-1 pay side on him, right? And the games that I tested him, he was not rolling resources at all, and that kind of turns a whole nother one of his dice sides, his strongest one, into a blank. So I want to make sure that he has a resource at least every turn. Thrawn does not gain resources every turn at all, but he does have a resource side. So if he gains one, there is a card that lets him use resources in the deck, but he doesn't gain resources every turn.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that's a rule-specific thing that people need to pay
That is a
attention to.
Vader-specific thing you can find on his instruction sheet.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, fundamentally, then, people can almost consider the 4-for-1 side to be free, except that, well, I guess if he rolls 2 of them, he can't resolve. But
Right, unless it's been a couple of turns and he hasn't, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we're about done. Is there anything else you want to add or throw in here for people trying to try your stuff out? Where can they find your stuff? That's the important part.
I'd be happy to provide you with a link that you can put on the video.
Perfect.
If you'd want, to both of them, to Thrawn and Vader. So you can just include those in there in the video.
Okay, we'll do. And then, so actually, what he's provided, at least for me, which I'm assuming you'll provide everyone, is just a link to the drive itself. Which
Yep,
is,
I've made a couple of Google Drives.
Yeah, which is nice, because then he can dynamically fix. It allows you to dynamically fix things and not have to resend the link to people.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
It stays there.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I give a shout out to a couple friends?
Absolutely.
They watch your channel, so shout out to Paul, Daniel, Pupard, and Micah.
Paul, Daniel, Papard, and Micah?
Yeah.
Awesome. Go Commando, guys.
Go Commando.
All right. Well, hey, thank you very much for joining us. It takes a lot of work to do this kind of stuff, as you well know. So,
yeah.
Hopefully everyone in the community is enjoying your stuff, or can get,
and I hope so.
Hopefully somebody can get some use out of it, right? So,
absolutely.
Thanks for putting in the work. And if you don't have anything else to add, let's go Commando.
Go Commando.